You're listening to Community Heroes podcast featuring people sharing about their stories with their disabilities. And now for your hosts, Brandon and Pate. Welcome back to Community Heroes podcast. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the USA Paralympian Dress Equestrian Sydney Collier. How are you doing today?
Great. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing good. Can you tell us about your disability and what it is?
Yeah, so I first got diagnosed with Wyburn-Mason syndrome at the age of 7. And Wyburn-Mason syndrome is very rare. It's actually diagnosed in less than 100 people on Earth. It was totally by chance that I even came to be diagnosed at the age of 7. And up until then, I had been living life just like any other able-bodied kid. And then just a well child visit where my vision was just having slight changes led me to go to an ophthalmologist, and I got diagnosed, and my life changed forever because it led me down a path of experimental treatment and really just almost fighting for my life in a way, because Wyburn-Mason is it's comprised of AVMs that are basically like tumors with really, really high blood flow and really high risk of bleed and aneurysm and stroke. And I have one deep behind my right eye that led me to go blind at the age of 8 in my right eye, and one in the middle of my brain, basically, that's lemon sized. And the one in my brain is the riskiest of the two, because obviously if that one bleeds, it could lead to me dying. And the hospital where I was diagnosed told my parents to take me home and pray that I didn't die of a massive bleed, but they weren't willing to take that as an answer. And it led us to finding Stanford Medical Center in California, where I ultimately ended up getting treated experimentally as the first pediatric case of Wyburn-Mason syndrome to ever get treated. And we started out with radiation to hopefully shrink the blood flow, but when that didn't work at the age of 11, I ended up having my first brain surgery. And during my first brain surgery, I had my first massive stroke. And I woke up at the age of 11 in a body that really no longer felt like my own. I could no longer walk. I could no longer use my left hand. I was like, it was almost impossible for me to comprehend at that moment. And from the minute that I woke up after that first stroke, I immediately knew that I was going to keep fighting. I was going to keep working my hardest in rehab or whatever I had to do just so that I could ride again. Like, riding was always my driving force that always kept me pushing to get better and better after any setback. And since that first stroke, I have had 4 more strokes over the years, with the most recent being in 2016, actually right after I came home from representing the USA at the Paralympics in Rio. And that most recent stroke led me to actually losing all of the feeling on my left side. So it's a very unique place to be, especially when you're riding, not having the feedback of your whole left side, and then also having to figure out how to be even in the saddle and give your horse these correct cues. So I live a kind of unique life because I spent 7 years of my life as an able-bodied kid, and then as I've gotten older, I have experienced life as a person, as a woman with disabilities.
Of course, how did you not let your disability define you into the person that you are today?
I would say how I've never let it define me is that I've never seen disability as a negative thing or as something that I wanted to change about myself. I always saw it as this beautiful thing that actually made me who I am. Like, and if anyone were to ask me, would you change the way you are? I any and every time I would say absolutely not. Like, I am this way for a reason, and it's made me who I am, and I would not change it for the world, really.
What has it been like, honestly, competing in the para side of sports?
So I found para dressage at the age of 12. I from 7 to 11, I had been riding able-bodied, and I had uniquely able-bodied goals. I had always dreamt of representing the USA at the Olympics, and I really when I came back from that first stroke, I experienced a very a very dark time where I did not know what to do because my mind, what I wanted to do and what my body was allowing me to do, they were not connecting in the same way. And when I found para dressage, I found a community of athletes that were doing exactly what I had always set out to do, but with bodies just like mine. When I saw them riding at the World Equestrian Games in 2010, I saw myself riding down the center line with them, and I saw that it really was possible, even though my body was no longer the same way it used to be.
What was the feeling like when you made the Team USA team to represent para equestrian?
Oh man, when I made the team for the Paralympics in 2016 for Rio, the feeling of pride and really just the feeling of representation for me was unlike any other that I had ever felt before. I have always said, that making a team for me is about something so much more than just me. It's about showing others that anything is possible as long as you work hard enough.
What was it like getting to compete in the Rolex 3-day tournament?
So I actually never got to compete in the Rolex 3-day eventing, but that was actually my original goal when I was 7 and through to when I was 11, and I would always go to Rolex and watch the eventers competing at the top of their sport, and I always said, one day that's going to be me. And seeing them do what they did at the top of their level, it motivated me to want to push myself to ride at the top of my level no matter what. And then after my stroke, finding para dressage, it all connected for me.
What was your process like training for your first Paralympics, and what was that process like getting on the team?
So, like for any athlete competing for your first games, man, it is so intense. You put in so much of yourself to it. And for me, I even had to move away from my hometown of Ann Arbor, Michigan, to Millbrook, New York, to train with my trainer there in Millbrook, New York, and to have the opportunity to ride the level of horse that I needed to ultimately qualify for the team. So obviously I had to leave back my family, I had to leave back my friends, I had to move away from everything that I had ever known, and that was obviously a big sacrifice. And I was riding 6 days a week and training in the gym 4 days a week. So a very, very intense training schedule. And at that point, I was doing my senior year of high school all online, um, and then I really took time to focus all my efforts on training and making that team after I graduated in 2015.
Of course, going to the Paralympics, what was it like getting to compete on your horse, Rosie?
So Rosie actually was not personally my horse. I was lucky enough to get to borrow her from my trainer at the time, Wesley Dunham, and my own horse, Wentworth. He was not selected for the team, and getting to compete with Rosie was a really unique experience because it was actually Rosie's second time competing at the Paralympics. She had competed with another athlete at the Paralympics in 2012 in London. And then I was lucky enough to get to ride her in Rio in 2016. And I just have to say, she was such a unique and talented horse that really I was so lucky to be paired with, thanks to Wes. And I really feel lucky to have had that opportunity to get to ride such a talented horse.
Of course, while at the Paralympics, what was that experience like getting to be around so many people just like yourself that had different challenges they have faced in their life?
So at the Paralympics, it was very unique for me because coming from my own background and growing up with a disability, obviously you're always kind of part of this minority, and you don't get to really be around very many people with disabilities because we're often very spread out, especially here in the USA. And over at the Paralympics and staying in the athletes village, it was really the first time that I got to experience a community where athletes with disabilities were part of the majority rather than the minority. And for me, that was just something so empowering because I really felt like I was not less than, and I was not part of this fringe group. Like I was part of this powerful majority, and getting to interact with all of these other talented athletes and individuals who also hadn't let their disabilities stop them from becoming the best of the best at their sports was an experience that I will never really forget, and that I will always cherish and look back on fondly, because I really do believe that every person with a disability deserves the chance to experience life with that much acceptance.
How is it like, obviously, getting to help those young athletes that are looking to inspire to be Paralympians, whether it's in the sport of equestrian or different sports?
Yeah, so for me, I started in the sport of para dressage at 12, thanks to my friend and mentor Jonathan Wentz, who really he like took me under his wing and introduced me to the sport. He made it way less intimidating to really get that start. And for me, that was just something so powerful, was to meet an athlete that I saw a lot of myself in him. And for me, my biggest thing through my journey is I want to make sure that I am as approachable as humanly possible for these young athletes that might have goals of representing the USA one day, because I know oftentimes a goal like representing the USA on the world stage can feel very overwhelming when you first think of it, but when you break it down into steps, it becomes more and more approachable, and anything really is possible as long as you want something enough. Like, if my story tells us anything, it's that anything is possible, and I really want to show other kids and even adults that if you work hard enough, that you can make big things happen.
How's it been like, obviously, for you to get to represent Team USA on the para dress equestrian side?
So for me, it's been such an honor getting to represent the USA in the sport of para dressage, because I just feel so deeply connected with my horse and my sport in general. I really feel like every day that I train, I learn something new about myself and about my horse, which is all that we as athletes can really ask for.
How is the feeling like, getting to meet your fans and having them recognize you and get to have that bond with people, your fans, even with disabilities too, just like yourself?
I don't know. I wouldn't say that I have fans, but I would say that I have friends that I've connected with through the love of sport, and I feel very lucky to be recognized by them and to be able to help them on their own journeys. That's one of my biggest goals through my journey, is really to connect with other people and to motivate them to work towards their own goals. Like, the I don't want it to just stop with me. I want the movement to really continue through me.
What are some of your favorite memories and moments competing in para equestrian?
Oh, there are so many. I have to say, one of the ones that really sticks out the most is going down center line at my first Paralympics, the very first time. Um, when I first went down center line at the Paralympics in Brazil, it was as if the whole rest of the world just faded away, and it was just Rosie and I. And even though the stadium was packed with other people, and it was about 100 degrees out and like 100% humidity that day, it was it was like an out of body experience, where it was just she and I really working to make it all happen. And it was like all of our hard work had culminated in that. And that's the feeling that we as athletes are always chasing.
What is it like, obviously, getting to represent the US, and how has it been like, obviously, competing at the biggest stage of Paralympics?
I have to say, getting to represent the USA, I really feel like I am a part of something so much bigger than myself. And I really feel like I am a part of the Team USA community, and to be associated with the other talented and really accomplished athletes on Team USA. I feel very lucky to be among the greats, and I just feel ready to continue working my hardest to make it onto that next team.
How has it been like, obviously, being an adaptive athlete and getting to compete in para equestrian?
So being an adaptive athlete, obviously it's not always easy. You're not always gonna find coaches that know how to work with your body. But I am at a point now, and I have been very, very lucky in the past 13 years that I've been doing para dressage to really have trainers and coaches that don't treat me any differently as a result of my disability and my body being different than able-bodied riders. And for me, I think that is the biggest thing as an adaptive athlete, is we train just as hard as any other able-bodied athlete, and we have to be just as fit as any other able-bodied athlete. And I think there are a lot of misconceptions around what being an adaptive athlete means. And man, it's a lot of work, but I have to say it's so rewarding.
Of course, how has that been like, obviously, overcoming the challenges that adaptive athletes have to face?
I would say there is a lot of learning to accept your body and what it can in like its limits. Obviously, as an athlete, you are always pushing for that next level. And being an adaptive athlete, there's a level of awareness of your disability that slowly over time you learn to accept more and more of your body's feedback. And by learning to accept your body's feedback, you're actually able to embrace yourself more and more, and push yourself even harder. And through my goals, I've really developed a love and passion for going to the gym and using the gym to improve my rides and my time in the saddle.
Of course, what has the balance been like with being a para athlete and also life outside of para athletes?
So being a para athlete, I would say being a para athlete takes over a lot of the aspects of your life, but that's because we enjoy it so much, and because we want to spread that love with other people. I know for me, during an average week, I'm going to the gym, I'm reaching out to nonprofit organizations. I'm reaching out to other riders to see if there's anything that I can help them with. I'm working, I'm doing work on my master's degree, and I'm also working on my book that I'm writing with my co-author. So there's definitely a balance there for sure. But I would say that the love of adaptive sports bleeds into every aspect of your life. because it's really what keeps you pushing to be better and better.
Of course, how has that journey been like, obviously writing a book, and what is that book about?
So I am actually writing a book about my childhood years and my journey to the Rio Paralympics with my awesome co-author Heather, and the book is set to be released in 2024. So I'm just very excited to bring my own story to people and to hopefully use it so that they can connect the lines and really use it to motivate themselves towards their own goals.
Of course, how have you used your platform to give back to the disability community?
So I've done a lot of outreach to nonprofit organizations, and I do speaking engagements. I do talks at schools, especially elementary schools, to try and help decrease the stigma surrounding disability, especially here in the USA. My belief is that there should be no negative connotation associated with disability. And through my platform, I really work to disseminate these negative associations that people often see with disability.
Of course, what are some of your future plans in the sport of para-equestrian?
So right now I am training my absolute hardest and gearing up for the winter show season here in Wellington. And then this year is a lot of campaigning and working our very hardest in order to qualify and hopefully be selected for Paris 2024. We are working our absolute hardest to make that happen, and it would be such an honor to get to represent the USA again.
What would that feel like, obviously getting to go to Paris to represent Team USA for para-equestrian?
So that would be the culmination of a lot of hard work. For Tokyo 2021, my horse Ale and we were selected as the first traveling reserve. And I know a lot of people might see that as coming up short on the goal, but for me, that was a really unique part of my journey because it brought me so much closer to my passion for riding and showed me exactly why I was doing what I was doing. And so to be selected for the team for Paris 2024, it really would be beyond words almost. Like thinking about it, I would just absolutely love the opportunity to help the USA work towards that gold medal in Paris.
What advice would you give those people that are looking to get into adaptive sports, that have a disability looking to get into sports?
So if you have a disability and you're looking to get into sports, I would say really keep an open mind and reach out to places that might not necessarily have experience training people with disabilities, because trainers, especially physical trainers, are really, really good at thinking outside of the box. I have definitely found that through my own experience, and I would say keep an eye out for opportunities to get involved in adaptive sports in your own area, and keep an open mind and really just embrace yourself and keep pushing yourself to be better and better, and embrace the body you have.
What advice would you give those people with disabilities that are looking to become Paralympians just like how you have?
I would say deconstruct the goal a little bit because yeah, a goal as large as the Paralympics or even the Olympics, it feels so overwhelming at first. But when you deconstruct it and you say, okay, this year maybe I'm gonna work on going to national shows, and then next year I'm gonna focus on CPED, like international shows. And then we're gonna work on it bit by bit. It becomes that much more approachable. So I would say don't let yourself feel overwhelmed by the how big the goal is, and break it down by chunks that are accomplishable.
What advice would you give for those people that are looking to get into the sport of equestrian?
I would say if you're looking to get into para dressage, I would say reach out to your local therapeutic riding center, see if they have any experience with para dressage. Reach out to a para equestrian and just strike up a conversation, and we can definitely be a resource of knowledge to help it not feel so overwhelming.
That's great advice. Where can our listeners find you at on social media?
You can check out my own Instagram at Sid's ParaQuest, and feel free to send me a DM, and I will definitely look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you again, Sydney Collier, for your interview, and best of luck in your future as the U.S. Paralympian Para Equestrian.
Thank you so much for having me. It was awesome to talk with you again.
Thank you. You can find Community Heroes on Facebook at Community Heroes, Instagram at Community Heroes_NC, Twitter at com_heroes, and you can find us on YouTube at Officially Community Heroes. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Sydney Collier, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thanks for having me.
You are watching Community Heroes. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Community Heroes on social media and on YouTube.